I've never been someone to sell fish throughout my life. As a matter of fact, I had a fish room going, but I've always been someone involved in selective breeding and working with guppies and live bearers since I was in middle school. And so my focus has always been on breeding and on developing specialty lines. And then about 8 years ago, I started Select Aquatics because I had quite a number of things here, and I was also really making an effort to maintain some large populations of wild and rare and endangered live bearers. So anyway, today now most of these lines have been in my room for at least 5 years, some much longer, and so I'm constantly breeding everything I do here. And so I don't really tailor my water to any particular fish all that much, but the problem I've got is I have fish from 4 different parts of the world that I'm breeding here in large numbers. You've got the live bearers from Mexico that have their certain water parameters, and then we have the Odessa barbs that are from Burma, Myanmar, and then there are the green dragon plecostomuses that are from Brazil and South America. And then lastly, you have the Synodontis lucipinnis that are from Lake Tanganyika in Africa. And so I'll add a little bit of calcium carbonate or crushed coral to the lucipinnis, but otherwise, my whole point of my fish room today is looking for better and better means of filtration, because it all comes about successful breeding and breeding in large numbers for these guys all comes about to water quality, either maintaining it at a high level or manipulating it to cause them to want to spawn or whatever it is that you want to do, but you want to have control over your water quality. So I was going through the fish room the other day, and I realized that, because I'm always tweaking filtration and water quality here, and I realized I have over a dozen different types of mechanical and biological filtration here. And so I've gone ahead and put together a little video to show these to you, and we can go over each one a little bit so you can see what it is and how they're used, and some of them are things I've not mentioned in previous videos. Now, only a crazy person like myself would use all of these in your fish room, and I don't expect you to go ahead and take down a list and go out and make these things in your tanks. But hopefully you'll be able to see the benefits of each of these and the options available to you, and possibly use some of these ideas and thoughts in your fish room as well. So if you got any questions about anything you see, please don't hesitate to drop me an email at selectaquatics@gmail.com. Thanks. I hope you enjoy the video. The first type of filtration in most tanks is the main filter, a hang-on-the-back filter, a canister, or a box filter that you're using. And here I use these 4-inch box filters that are still made and available. There's no moving parts, they never wear out, they're relatively powerful, and you can always see exactly how dirty the filter is. With the way I use them here, they don't provide much biological filtration, but they're great at removing organic debris and mulm that deteriorate your water quality, and they allow for you to have decent control of the organic buildup in the tank. The box filters are assisted by the discontinued 250 hot magnum filters, primarily on tanks that deal with the most waste, such as the pleco grow out in adult tanks. Currently I'm up to 23 of the hot magnums here, but they don't provide biological filtration at all, as the micron cartridges must be replaced daily or they will quickly clog and cease working. The next big form of mechanical filtration here are the 15% daily water changes. Water changes are primarily of value when done as a form of mechanical filtration. When the automatic water change system adds 15% to a tank, the drain setup removes 15% at the same time. The automated system ensures consistent water changes where an equal amount of water is being removed when new water is being added. If water quality deteriorates, simply adding water to compensate for evaporation doesn't have much benefit. After simply adding water, they may behave more normally temporarily, but you need to remove the older water from the aquarium. The best water is water that is consistent, that's well seasoned, and with low or zero testing for ammonia, nitrates, and nitrites. Water that is too organic rich is a problem for some fish, and water that is too fresh and not seasoned appropriately can be a problem for others. Here, water that is not seasoned enough is a problem for the limias, but water that is too organic rich can be a problem for the Villifera, who will begin to show clamp fins and possible shimmying if the water quality strays too far from its liking. I am always mindful that adding fresh water will perk up a tank with water issues. For example, if you see a thin layer of foam at the water line in your tank, it tells you that your water has become too organic rich and something needs to be cleaned, repaired, or restarted. To bring water quality quickly back to where it should be, a hose is always within reach. Now, this is something I realize is a luxury in a larger fish room, and I'll do a quick addition of 10 or 15% fresh water to a tank having problems, if necessary. Here, the drain system automatically removes the amount of water being added, making this a form of mechanical filtration. The hose is also used as a gravel cleaner to bring organic buildup up into the water column, where the waste can be pulled out by an added canister filter or the filtration that's available. This way, all my tanks can be kept debris-free with only a thin layer of substrate, and the entire tank can be cleaned thoroughly, easily, and quickly in a really short period of time. In some parts of the room, to better manipulate water quality to assist breeding, there are groups of about 20 tanks that are run through sumps that add another layer of both mechanical and biological filtration. I don't use these on all of the tanks here, nor do I use them all of the time on the tanks they're hooked up to. But this extra level of filtration comes in handy when you're feeding 180 pounds of green beans a month to growing plecos. Since the hot 250 Magnum filters were discontinued, I've been trying other filters to find one that does a similar job. The AquaClears are probably the next best, but like the 250s, they have their strengths and their weaknesses. I use them primarily for mechanical filtration, though they do come with small bags of ceramic bioballs that may be of some value, but I don't use them here. So that takes care of the various forms of mechanical filtration here. Now let's take a look at the biological side. As some people have pointed out and commented after previous videos, my main source of biological filtration is not a filter at all, but comes from the single layer of 1/4-inch pea gravel spread over 1/3 to 1/2 of the bottom of the tanks. Gravel is interesting. When just 1 or 2 pebbles deep, with some water movement, gravel provides an expanded area for nitrifying bacteria, and a thin layer of seasoned gravel will dramatically improve a cloudy tank within just 3 to 4 days. However, if you choose to maintain gravel that is thicker, then organic material will quickly collect within it, and regular siphon cleaning becomes necessary, or your gravel will bring down your water quality. Our job is to keep an eye on the amount of debris accumulation and keep it to a minimum for consistent and adequate water quality. Sponge filters are excellent for raising egg layer fry when using a bare-bottom tank and where debris and mulm can be kept siphoned up. They're used here in both the Odessa and the Lucipinnis fry tanks. I don't have to worry about the young being sucked up into anything, and the young are also able to feed from the sponge exterior. They're great for biological filtration as long as they're regularly cleaned in aquarium water, but they provide very little mechanical filtration. I mentioned earlier that the AquaClears came with ceramic bioballs, and this is what they look like. The bioballs are generally a very good idea, and I've used them with wet-dry filters and sumps over the years. The next form of filtration is strong aeration to boost bacterial activity and maintain higher oxygenation levels for the fish so they are better able to fight off pathogens when they appear. Putting aeration onto a tank that needs it will turn the water quality around and thus the plants and the fish around within a relatively short period of time, often under an hour. With the fish kept here that are from environments of moving water, higher oxygenation levels definitely keep them in best health. A tank that needs more aeration will show fish that are breathing at the surface, possibly yellowish water, and foam accumulating at the water line. Possibly the most important form of biological filtration are live aquatic plants. I have often seen how quickly adding live plants to an unstable or slightly cloudy tank can have to get it cleaned up. Not only does the water quality improve, but the fish respond and they react positively. I realize that not everyone chooses to keep plants, and some feel that plants cannot live in their tanks. Usually the proper selection of the type of plant that you want to keep will solve the problem. Though many plants have been grown here, I only have Java fern, Bobitus fern, and a few Amazon swords because they've all done well and they meet my needs here. But if duckweed will survive in your tanks, there will be a number of plants that should do well for you. This is an effective form of biological filtration that I have used over the years, and a variety of plants will work. People use plants such as Spathiphyllum and Sumps, and I have used spider plants and pothos in the past. However, recently, in efforts to increase my biological filtration here, I visited the fish room of Larry Jenks in North Carolina, a very successful and well-known breeder of freshwater fish, and he was using a number of plants this way for filtration on his tanks to encourage breeding. Besides the usual spider plants and pothos, he pointed out that there were wider-leaved philodendrons available that were capable of removing even greater amounts of organic waste from the aquarium. Since that visit, I have obtained a number of Rojo Congo philodendrons and will be training them to vine down the sides of specific breeding tanks over the next few months. For my first question, Mark asks, "Hello, I'm having trouble collecting the fry from my main tank. Is it possible to have these guys breed in a heavily planted tank without them predating on their fry? My pair had 2 drops in the last 3 months and only had 1 survivor, and he's missing an eye." Now, I don't even remember what species we're talking about, probably one of my live bearers. And there's always lots of discussions about which species eat their fry and do they or do they not. There are people who will tell you that no species eats their fry if they're well fed, and other people will say that they'll all feed if they're hungry enough. My experience has been, you want to keep them well fed and they bother their fry less. Some species are worse than others. If you want to keep it a Gambusia, they will eat fry as feed like nobody's business. Brachyraphis are the same way, but a lot of my live bearers are not. The Mica splendens, for instance, distinctly leaves their fry alone. So do the Xiphophorus montezumas. But as a rule, when you're trying to breed something, like my first couple of years, I used to get emails all the time about how do you breed the Alpharo cultratus, because the babies are very small and they're really thin and sliver-like, and they swim up near the surface, and the other fish, suck them up pretty easily. Or oftentimes, people who've written have said that the parents, other adults of the Alpharos in the tank will eat them pretty readily, and they will. So when you have a fish like that, or any others, as a rule, what I do is put them into a tank, separate, like a 10-gallon tank, a gravid female, put her in there with some moderate plants, enough plants so that she can swim around, but the young have plenty of places to hide. And the young are usually born between sunup and noon. And if you see one fry in the tank, chances are that the whole batch has been born. So if I see a single fry, say, swimming around, in some species the young will stay near the bottom, in some species the fry will go to the top. For instance, with the Alpharos, they always go right to the top. But with a lot of the crocodons and some of the Gudeids, the fry go down to the bottom. So you just have to get an idea over time what that's all about. But you'll see a fry in there, and when that happens, then I look for the female and see if she looks thinned down. If she does, I get her out of the tank. And then I just raise the fry up. And I usually find that it's about 2 to 3 weeks before they can be introduced back in with the adults. Now, to put them into a heavily planted tank and just hope all's good, the mother might leave them alone as a rule, but if you have other fish in the tank, you're probably going to run into somebody eating them. And even if you have 2 fish that don't normally eat their own fry, if you put them in a tank, they can eat possibly the fry of other fish, because food is food. So anyway, I hope that answers the question. And there are easy ways to get around this. I mean, my goodness, I've put stuffed plants into a breeder, tried to get them to spawn, and all this kind of business. The Alfaros, I found it to be hard to breed them as well at first, but it actually is very simple and it works really easily. Just putting them into a 5 or a 10-gallon tank, moderately planted, put them as close as within a week or so of when she drops. Just check in there in mid-morning. If you see fry, pull her out. It's all done. All's good. So anyway, hope that answers the question. Now for the next question, Pete writes to me, "Thank you so much for what you do for the hobby, and I'm interested in your green dragon plecos. I want to get 100 pairs, please. Let me know." Well, besides the fact that they have to be 2.5, 3 inches before they can be sexed out, I couldn't imagine what shipping 200 pairs of fish would look like. But I get questions about the green dragons all the time, and I'm doing my best to breed them up. As you all know, this last summer and fall, after the YouTube videos posted by my friend at Aquarium Co-op, I sold out of most of my younger fish. So at that point last fall, I realized that there was quite the demand for them, and I went from 8 to 15 breeder groups. Now the green dragons, I received a couple of mutations from someone who did not pursue them, and I've been the person that's developed them. I'm now starting my 7th generation. Actually, the 6th generation's coming up to breeding, so there'll be a little bit here before they start spawning, and they'll be generation 7. And I only sell my best fish. Only about 40% of what I raise gets sold as long-fin green dragons. The rest are short fins and various, and poor color, poor finnage, whatever. So I'm getting questions a lot about this all the time, and so I've had them down for sale until my 2 to 3 inchers were ready to go, which is about now actually. But I've only got 50, 75 of them at this point, but I have many hundreds coming up. And I'm trying to get back to the numbers that I used to have before I had the thing where everything got sold out. So anyway, I'm working on it, and so to let people know what they look like and see, I put together a little video here, and this will show you exactly how many are here. So you can see what they look like, and you can see how many there are. And please just keep an eye on the website. I've been redoing it and working a lot on it here a lot lately. And I hope to have it posted here, hopefully you'll be seeing it with this video. And I will continue to keep it updated on the availability of the green dragons, both 2 to 3 inch fish and sexed fish. So anyway, enjoy. As many of you know, I was selling green dragons at a fairly predictable rate for about 6 years as they improved and moved from generation to generation. In fact, I sold many groups of them, often 30 at a time, during their first 2 to 3 generations when their color wasn't as good and their finnage was not what it is today. As I enter my 7th generation, I still only sell about 40% of what I raise up as long-fin green dragons. The remainder are regular color short fins, albino long fins, albino short fins, and fish that are called for poor color or finnage. And I only ship my best fish as long-fin green dragons. The result is that with the recent surge in sales, this fairly slow-growing line of Ancestras has been difficult to keep in stock. This past fall I expanded from 8 breeder groups to 15, and many new fry are coming up. They've been taking 4 to 5 months to reach the 2-inch size and nearly a year to fully sex out. I truly dislike having to tell anyone that I'm not able to provide what they're looking for, but we'll keep the listing of availability up to date at the website and plan to continue to increase my numbers here of the highest quality green dragons that you can get anywhere. Thank you so much for watching this video on mechanical and biological filtration, and also a little bit about the green dragon plecos. The next video is going to be on the Odessa barbs, and it's going to feature some unbelievable photography that a customer did of some of the fish that he bought from here. So I hope you enjoy that. I'm going to get it out to you as soon as I can. It'll be out probably within about 2 weeks. So thank you very much, and I look forward to hearing from you from emails and keeping in touch.